The script is written. That's the title of this audio. It references the fact that the scope of our choice in our lives is whether to look upon everything that happens, everything we think we see with Jesus or the Holy Spirit or with the ego. That is the only choice we have, whether we're going to look upon it with Jesus or with the ego. We're going to look at the implications of that. Before we start, let's review the way we practice the course, the way we practice forgiveness. Practicing forgiveness and what it means to be in our right minds as opposed to our wrong minds is to take Jesus's hand and watch ourselves choosing the ego again and again, choosing the ego thought system without judgment. We know we're watching the ego thought system act itself out with Jesus if we're not judging. If we're judging, then we're watching the ego with the ego. So because we're here, we know we chose the ego thought system because we believe we're bodies. The practice of the course is, again, to take the hand of our inner guide and watch it playing itself out. And that is the definition of forgiveness: looking, waiting, and quietly doing nothing. It's important to keep in mind how the course describes the world while we're doing that. Otherwise, we could believe we're practicing forgiveness, but really not experience any progress without the fundamentals of the course being understood. The script is written as one of those fundamental aspects of the course. So I'm going to run through the place in the course that discusses the script. We'll start with chapter 30, section 7, the new interpretation. I'm going to read some quotes from that section. You add an element into the script you write for every minute in the day, and all that happens now means something else. You take away another element, and every meaning shifts accordingly. So we have a script, and that is the script of our lives. And that script contains everything the body is going to think, say, and do. That's what the script is. What do your scripts reflect except your plans for what the day should be? So because we identify with the figure in that script, we experience it as though it's happening to us, and that we're not merely identifying, we're not really merely putting on a costume. We are a part of that script. And so we make judgments according to the rules the script assigns. Those judgments are unstable. In one moment, you can look at something that you do or someone else does or thinks or says and say, that's terrible. And then you understand a broader context later on and think, oh, that wasn't terrible. There's no stability within the judgments that can be made because we never have enough information about the scope of the script and the other elements that could be added to change the judgment. Fear is a judgment never justified. Its presence has no meaning but to show you wrote a fearful script and are afraid accordingly, but not because the thing you fear has fearful meaning in itself. So that ties into that thought of instability. He's saying that we wrote a fearful script because what our senses are perceiving, what information we're getting makes us feel afraid, or we believe that makes me feel afraid. I saw something in that script and now I'm terrified. But that, again, is something that's in flux. There's no allowance for stability of meaning because we're always being shown different information as the script moves along. Okay, then he talks about it being a distorted script, which cannot be interpreted with meaning. It must be forever unintelligible. Your dark dreams are but the senseless, isolated scripts you write in sleep. Look not to separate dreams for meaning. He's talking about our lives. Our dark dreams are the senseless, isolated scripts you write in sleep. He could just as easily be saying, your life is a senseless, isolated script you wrote in sleep. So we talk about the dream as though it's something that is separate from us, and it really is a reference to who we believe we are, what we believe the world is, what we believe God is, what we believe each other. The reality we decide is the truth for ourselves and for everyone around us. That was all the new interpretation under chapter 30. And I believe the only other time the word script appears in the course is in workbook lesson 158, in which he clearly makes the point. The script is written. We but see the journey from the point at which it ended, looking back on it, imagining we make it once again, reviewing mentally what has gone by. So when we take Jesus's hand and watch ourselves and what we do in our lives, this is what we're doing. We're imagining something that has gone by, reviewing it again. The script is written could not be clearer. Some people talk about predetermination in really negative terms because it takes away our autonomy, takes away our individuality. And yes, that's exactly what it does, because those things have no value to a perfect oneness in which the only truth is love and joy, perfection, unmarred by any anxiety. And almost the disdain with which people talk about predetermination, predestination, is a tribute to how tied we all are to the love of our individuality. That I would rather be me alone and afraid than a part of some oneness. And that's how we got here. And all of the pain and suffering we go through, we don't really want to acknowledge, I value this other thing and I'm willing to go through anything to maintain it. Another place in which we can kind of consider the script being written is in the chapter on the guiltless world, guiltlessness and invulnerability. And he makes this point: you are not guiltless in time, but in eternity. You have sinned in the past, but there is no past. Always has no direction. Time seems to go in one direction, but when you reach its end, it will roll up like a long carpet spread along the past behind you and will disappear. As long as you believe the Son of God is guilty, you will walk along this carpet, believing that it leads to death, and the journey will seem long and cruel and senseless, for so it is. If we don't understand this, if we don't accept that, we're essentially condemning ourselves. If the script isn't written, then sin is real and the journey will remain long and cruel and senseless. If the script isn't written, then there are meaningful choices to be made. And most importantly, guilt is real. If guilt is real, mistakes are sins with all the dire consequences that we seem to perceive. That is antithetical to the message of the Course. If anything, the Course means guilt is not real as a fundamental proposition. My teacher taught me there's one way to understand the Course, and I had and have perfect trust in him. It's the only thing in the world I have perfect trust in. But more than that, more than a trust, I intuitively feel it when I read the Course, that there is one way to read the script as written, and that is choices are not made at the level of the body. What the body is going to think, say, and do is established. And what we can do is look upon that with Jesus or look upon that with the ego and experience hell. So another point that I want to make here is the idea that arguing against this is arguing in favor of basically maintaining what we've done our whole lives, defending our judgments, seeing evil outside of ourselves, maintaining our face of innocence, the way we've led our lives. And we really would not have picked up the Course if what we were doing was working for us. So the Course does not attempt to terrify us. It's trying to lead us by planned steps to the conclusion that it must be true. It must be true. And the workbook leads us to an experience of that truth. Experience must come to end all doubting. And that really can only be known by faith and doing it. I need do nothing. That is the section in chapter 18, the passing of the dream. So I need do nothing does not make sense in terms of a world that has independence where choices are meaningful. If the script is not written and if the world is not a dream, then we absolutely have to do a myriad of things. We have to make plans, and the world demands certain judgments just in order to function and make any move whatsoever and take care of all of the needs of ourselves and everyone around us. So I need do nothing is another way of saying the script is written. It's another way of saying time is an illusion. Within that section, he says, one instant spent together with your brother restores the universe to both of you. So a lot of people wonder, well, who's my brother? Your brother is Jesus. In other words, your brother is the light in you. Jesus holds the lamp. If you want to consider Jesus being that part of your mind, he is a split off part of you that represents the truth. Split off part of the mind. So part of the mind contains the truth, remembrance of God. Part of the mind contains the ego thought system that we identify with. He's a split off part of you that represents truth. He is not a body seen in a nightmare. The Course talks a lot about brothers. I trust my brothers who are one with me because it meets us where we are. When we pick up the Course, we believe we're a body in a world. We think we're autonomous. We think we're making choices, 1,000 choices a day. We think the world is causing us pain. We think we're causing people pain. But at some point, we need to understand my brother is the light that represents the truth in me. That is my guide. I can call it Jesus, the Holy Spirit, the split off part of me that represents truth, anything but a body in a nightmare. So he says you choose between your brother. It says you choose between your brother and yourself. Again, your brother is the part of your mind that remembers what you are, and the ego is the voice that speaks to you of hatred, guilt, and doom. Some other sections where he discusses your brother. Okay, one comes to mind where he says, do not live your little life in solitude with one illusion as your only friend. It's very clear he doesn't believe that there's 8 billion illusions. One illusion, the one illusion is the voice within you that you're going to listen to. Your brother, the split off part of your mind is that voice guiding and directing you. And whether or not you're going to choose the ego or choose the split off part of you that represents the truth will determine your experience of this world. So in one sense, the world is made up of 8 billion people. And we sort of breathe life into that. But the purpose of breathing life into that is really to establish what we are. And so there's this core in everyone who seems to walk the earth of not selfishness, but of self-aggrandizement, because you're the star of your dream and everyone around you is the star of their dreams. Conflict is inevitable. So the purpose of this audio and focusing on the script being written is to help us withdraw our investment from this whole kind of circus of what seems to be our lives, where it's very easy to become overwhelmed, and we spend some time trying to limit even the information that reaches us. Um, the world is too much with us. When we say the script is written, we can kind of drop our shoulders and stand back from it. And standing back from it and looking upon it without judgment is practicing being in your right mind. That's what it is. In the section, I Need Do Nothing, he also says, you are prepared. Now you need but to remember you need do nothing. It would be far more profitable now merely to concentrate on this than to consider what you should do. Again, that has no meaning in our regular lives and what it means to be a body. That makes no sense. When peace comes at last to those who wrestle with temptation and fight against the giving in to sin, when the light comes at last into the mind given to contemplation, or when the goal is finally achieved by anyone, it always comes with just one happy realization: I need do nothing. Again, that's from chapter 18, The Passing of the Dream. So Jesus is being funny in this section. He makes the point that I need do nothing is the happy realization. But if you understand that in the context of the script is written, it could also be said, I can't do anything. Everything in the Course leads you to a space where you can choose again, without strain and without undue terror. So even though you might feel a sense of instability, the ego thought system is loosening as you study the Course. So I need do nothing equals I can't do anything for this reason. What we think we can do really involves the body, acting, saying, and thinking. He also makes the point in the Course that when you think you're thinking in the body, your mind is blank. So we have the thoughts of the Course that represent the truth, and we have our own thoughts or judgments about the world and what everything here means. So when we're thinking about the world and making judgments about the world, our mind is really blank. I can't do anything because I'm looking at the journey, reviewing it mentally, and it's gone by. So I am not making choices in the world. I'm identifying with a character in this dream of death and experiencing everything as though I am in the first person and it's happening in real time. There was a ride at an amusement park that I used to go to, and it was called the Cine 2000. And it was a huge dome. You walked into the Cine 2000, and there were rows of bars, and people entered those rows and held onto the bar in front of them as an image, a movie filled the dome, and you were watching it from the eyes of the character in the movie. And they would be on a roller coaster, they would be driving recklessly, they would be skydiving, and from the perspective of which it was filmed, it seemed to be happening to you. So you had to hold on to the bar because you'd be swaying and falling over, believing you're on a roller coaster, experiencing the thrill and rush and excitement of everything that was happening on the screen in the first person from your perspective. I always thought that was a really good analogy to what is actually happening. So these images are flying by us, and we seem to be doing, and up goes my arm, and now I'm shopping, and now I'm driving in a car, and now I'm at work, and now I'm being called upon to say something, and now I can sit in the corner, and now the body doesn't seem to be doing anything, and I'm left alone, and now I seem to be around a million people, and I'm on the street. And our contribution to this movie that we're watching in the first person, identifying with it completely, entirely, believing our thoughts have impact, and believing what I say is seen and heard and believed. I'm seen and heard and believed by other people, and they are by me. Our contribution is whether to watch it all with Jesus or look upon it with our egos. The ego's voice will always tell us, yeah, this is your life. You are incredibly vulnerable and it's very difficult. You should spend all your time trying to get safe and look at all the terrible things everybody else is doing and look at the terrible things you're doing and look at what you are. Ugh, don't look, if you look in the mirror, it tells you how awful you are. And when you take Jesus's hand, you can look upon that same script um, through his eyes, through the eyes that show you you are not at the whim of a senseless world where it's as careless of you as the weather or the time of day. And you can see yourself in a different light when we can withdraw our judgments about what we believe about ourselves and other people. So, going back to I need do nothing, he also says, at no single instant does the body exist at all. It is always remembered or anticipated, but never experienced just now. Only its past and future make it seem real. That's another way of saying if you saw a snapshot instead of a film running, that static image would not be fearful to you. It's only because the film keeps rolling and the outward picture seems to shift and change constantly. What we call time is the shifting of an image. So if we think about it as being a film, then the idea of time is not the shifting of the image, it's the shifting of the experience. And what we experience is one of two things. We experience truth or the denial of truth. We experience heaven, a reflection of heaven, or hell's reflection. The Course speaks in absolutes because the truth is absolute. We don't live our lives in that kind of uncompromising way. In the world in which we live, compromise is essential. Nothing is static here. It's constantly in a state of flux. The truth never changes. The truth shines just as bright at every moment. There's no shift in it. There's no meaning that needs to be interpreted. So only its past and future make it seem real. Its past and future make the dream seem real. And what is the dream really? Um, what does it mean to us? So the dream is a place where the serial adventures of our body tell a story. And it's a story of idols. So he talks about idols in chapter 29, The Awakening, section 9, The Forgiving Dream. The slave of idols is a willing slave, for willing he must be to let himself bow down and worship to what has no life and seek for power in the powerless. It has no life because it's an image, it's a dream. It is a written script that we've identified with. What happened to the Holy Son of God that this could be his wish to let himself fall lower than the stones upon the ground and look to idols that they raise him up? Hear then your story in the dream you made, and ask yourself if it be not the truth that you believe that it is not a dream. And all of us can answer that in the same way. We do believe it's not a dream. He's just calling us out there. Ask yourself if it be the truth that you believe it's not a dream. Of course, we believe it's not a dream. Of course, we believe it's our lives. We've set up everything to convince ourselves of that. We trained this whole thing and its witnesses to speak back to us. The world identifies me as a body. Whether it loves me or hates me is irrelevant. It witnesses to the fact that I'm a fragile, vulnerable body. And that's what I needed to do to maintain my own identity. And it was by no mistake. Now we can recognize I made a mistake in wanting this because I'm not happy. But the choice for it was not a mistake. That was a deliberate choice that was made. And then over time, it seems over time, we learn I can't be happy here. There's no hope of happiness in a dream world of illusion. It is built on the idea of hopelessness, sacrifice, chasing after things that ultimately we don't even we don't even want, or we just move on to wanting something different. It's just kind of like a small child wanting to drink bleach and thinking that's going to make them happy. It's not that different from adults, wanting a nice, shiny, brand new car, thinking it's going to make them happy. Nothing can make us happy here. Nothing can make us happy here because the idea of happiness, what happiness is, its essential reality, is within us and not outside of us. But because we identify with this character with hands that grasp and can hold things and touch them, we find ourselves in this endless circle of wanting to make this picture look a certain way, to make me have certain things, to make me be certain things. And the dream will fail me because I think I have even a modicum of control here, which I don't have. So I'm sort of just living this out, waiting to see what happens and whether the character I identify with gets things that she wants. Um, so sticking with the awakening, forgiving dream, he goes on to say, a dream of judgment came into the mind that God created perfect as himself. And in that dream was heaven changed to hell, and God made enemy unto his son. How can God's son awaken from the dream? It is a dream of judgment, so must he judge not, and he will awaken. For the dream will seem to last while he is part of it. Judge not, for he who judges will have need of idols, which will hold the judgment off from resting on himself. It's a dream of judgment. Then what is the judgment? What is this moving image that is happening and I see as my life? What does it mean? So the judgment is what I decide it means every single moment. You're good, you're bad, I hate you, I love you. I'm the bad guy, you're the bad guy. I see evil. Oh, I can't believe something terrible happened. Um, or even triumph. The judgment could be, yay, I got everything I wanted. Um, that is an echo of the original experience of the ego triumphing over God, getting out from under heaven, being autonomous, being independent. Yay, I'm on my own. It's a dream of judgment, so must he judge not, and he will awaken. That is what it is to take Jesus's hand, to walk with that light that is within you and look upon everything that seems to be made of our lives with that light, with Jesus, and judge not. And I know I repeat it a lot, but forgiveness is looking, waiting, quietly doing nothing, judging not above all things, because that is our escape. And it's not just an escape from this circumstance I find myself in life. Maybe I feel like I'm being tortured by somebody, so I need to escape that. It's an escape from hell. Heaven was changed to hell. We can't always recognize what's happened for what it is because there seems to be moments when the guns are stilled on the battleground. There seems to be moments where we think we're happy, where we think we got what we wanted. What makes it a lasting hell is the certainty of the ending, loss, desolation, deterioration, sacrifice. We tend to accept things. We've been trained, overtrained to accept certain aspects of life and not to seek beyond our little world. Don't look beyond the world. Just follow the pathways, and then our egos smiles approvingly on us. Yeah, make sure you find sin in other people and guilt in other people, and you will die and return to dust. But that's okay. That's something else you should be accepting. So the course is kind of turning all that on its head. It's like, why would this be acceptable? Do you think it would be acceptable to God? What kind of God would leave you in a state where safety has no meaning, a place where terrible, horrible things happen to you? It's our face of innocence can make it seem possible that guilt is real and we do live in a world that's careless of us. Because our face of innocence kind of allows us to believe we love. We think we love people. We think we love God. But, 1,000 assaults upon that face of innocence can lead it to anger and bitterness and ultimately attack. Because as the Course says, we kind of smile approvingly on justified attacks. Well, look what you did to one who would be innocent and good. In this movie, the script, the only conclusion that could be made is that God is cruel. And in order to believe in a loving God, if the world be real, we have to turn the idea of what love is on its head to allow for the idea that God's letting all this happen, but he's still love. So in chapter 27, The Healing of the Dream, there's a section on the hero of the dream, which describes us, what we're doing as bodies in a world. And that's not something people, I think, are accustomed to reading about, that fundamental idea of being a body in a world. We're so used to making judgments about that body instead of looking at this is all the dream is. This body just wandering idly in and out of places that the mind contrives, believing it is where it isn't. In that section, the gentle laughter of the Holy Spirit is described. And it says, in gentle laughter does the Holy Spirit perceive the cause and looks not to effects. We're looking at the effects. We're looking at our lives and we're going, help me, God, help me. I hate what's happening. Or, yay, God must love me the most because wonderful things are happening. The Holy Spirit does not look at what's on the screen and what we think our lives are and what that script is revealing to us. He looks at the cause of that, which is the choice to identify with it. I don't see the dream as nothing. I don't see the script as nothing. I am one with it. I am experiencing it right now. It is cause and not effect. Whereas the Holy Spirit sees the cause as the identification. I see the cause as, well, my parents gave birth to me, and I'm just an innocent victim. And that section continues, you judge effects, but he has judged their cause, and by his judgment are effects removed. Perhaps you come in tears, but hear him say, my brother, holy Son of God, behold your idle dream in which this could occur, and you will leave the holy instant with your laughter and your brother's joined with his. Again, another section that makes no sense if we believe the world is real. Behold your idle dream in which this could occur. The Holy Spirit's laughter is evil if we're really being subjected to a terrifying world and we're asking for help here in the dream. Help me navigate this terrible world. The Holy Spirit laughs because he doesn't see a terrifying world in which we try to navigate with insufficient information. To join the Holy Spirit in that laughter, we would have to perceive the cause where the Holy Spirit perceives the cause. The original identification, the original idea of what we are. We are not a part of oneness. We are not a part of love. We are part of its opposite. The secret of salvation is but this: you're doing this unto yourself. No matter what the form of the attack, this still is true. Whoever takes the role of enemy and of attacker, still is this true. Whatever seems to be the cause of any pain and suffering you feel, this is still true, for you would not react at all to figures in a dream you knew that you were dreaming. Very clear. It's remarkably clear language. It's baffling to me that there's any dispute or conflict in the world over what it means, because we're here in a world where words do have agreed upon meaning. And he's hitting us right where we live. And that is why the Course is very subject to be distorted. We don't really want to hear that the cause of our pain is not outside of us. We don't really want to hear that the others aren't guilty. Because if they're not guilty and they are not a dream figure, then neither are we. And all of our defenses are set up to avoid the truth, to deny the truth, and to project out our own hatred and our own guilt onto the others. Before I started this audio, my goal was to bring us right up close to the holy instant, so close we could reach out and touch it and be in it. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm going to try to do this with all my might, which is very funny considering the content of this audio and what I'm really trying to draw attention to. I had to say to myself, you're not going to try to do anything. You're going to watch what happens because that's all you can do. So this very moment is part of the script, and the next moment is part of the script, and the next. So you see, it's not a matter of time to accept the atonement for ourselves. It's not a matter of, there's not a matter of time between forgiveness and experiencing the sweet release. It's here, it's right now, because it's a script. It would not be here and now if it somehow depended upon what was happening in that movie. It can't depend on what's happening in the movie, or the course falls apart and hell is real. Resistance is insidious, and the ego seems to creep in of its own volition. It's very easy to forget that it comes by invitation. We don't want to remember we invited it in. We don't want to remember we're incredibly resistant. We want to believe that we're holy sons of God wandering the earth, and He'll help us here. He'll make things better here. Well, one question would be, why hasn't He done that already? And why is it dependent on me thinking or believing anything in particular? You know, that's not loving. We see what we see because we believe it, and we believe it because we want it to be true. We chose hatred. The Son of God came here to hate a little while, and we're the Son of God. He's talking about us. When He said, you came here to hate a little while, He means us. And if we try to gloss that over and see ourselves in some shiny light because we don't like the way that feels, we're gonna hinder our own progress with the course. And we do all the time. And it seems like we're not deciding to do that, but we are. The reason to realize that is not to beat ourselves up. It's only to say and mean, I want the peace of God. I don't want the peace of God if I'm going to keep making excuses about what I am or what other people are. The hatred is in me, and if I don't look at it and see it there, and if I focus solely on all the hatred I see in the world and say, Jesus, I'm going to take your hand, I'm going to look upon all this hatred I see in the world, and I'm not going to judge it, I'm just going to see it. And we don't understand that what we believe is hatred is within us and not in the world. That is our contribution to a benign script that is not a cause and has no impact on us at all. Then we're going to feel stuck. So the home we chose has blood on its walls, and we experience pain physically, psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. That is the pain of murder and cannibalism until we choose again. And if we constantly put those things outside of us and think we're practicing the course by continuously seeing those things outside of us and not understanding we projected it onto a blank canvas and it's within us, we're going to feel a struggle. And we need to remember the secret to salvation is that we are doing this to ourselves. You know, avoid getting lost in the theology. That's part of the resistance to the experience of the reflection of love. We can't trust our good intentions. They're not enough. Because once we take one step in the descent to hell, the rest of the steps are unrecognized and they will follow. When we choose to hang around in hell, hating, judging, angry, and terrified, we just say to Jesus, Jesus, I'm too afraid of love right now. I am rejecting you. I have to go my merry way, hating and terrified, because I'm too afraid of you. That's being honest with ourselves. That's saying, I'm too afraid to let you lead me up these steps. I feel safer down here rolling around in the mud. I want to take your hand, but I'm afraid of God's love and what it means. Jesus doesn't judge us for that. Making a mistake, believing our defenses that terrify us. He's not judging us. We're judging it. We're looking upon it with our ego. So it's important to remember it's not your Father's will that you were crucified. And it's important to remember that when we place blame outside of ourselves, then the Holy Instant will not be able to reach us. When we place blame for what we are, what we've become, what we do, what we seem to think, all of what's in that script of what it means to identify with this character. When we blame that on something outside of us, we're limiting the experience we can have. The magnitude of the goal of the course is the most important thing to not forget. And we're all very forgetful. I keep saying, remember this, remember that, but we're all going to forget it. We're going to forget it in the next instant because that's the resistance. And that's okay. And we can tell ourselves, I got really scared. I got really scared and I forgot everything I ever learned. I got really scared and I dropped Jesus's hand and I went to try to figure it out on my own with my ego. That's all okay. But we try again. The magnitude of the goal, once you accept it as your path, is in you. It's no small course. The undoing of everything you value and believe can only be accomplished in steps. So, who would ever believe? Who could be taught you're not what you believe you are? Your thoughts, your words, and your actions are literally nothing in a form that seem like something. They're as insubstantial as a dream. They are illusory. When that kind of undoing is what the Course is trying to accomplish here and is trying to lead us there. If we try to water it down, God forbid, interpret it to mean that we can make the world a better place. If we try to water it down, then we condemn ourselves to a lasting hell in which awakening is the dream. And it doesn't matter if we try to shove the heart that is the Course into a square box repeatedly for 30, 40, 50 years. The truth is still true, and it's only a mistake and can be undone in an instant. So, God, we experience life like we're waiting on God. God waits on us with infinite patience. He will call to us until we come to him in peace at last. That is a poetic way of saying we're not going to torture ourselves forever, but it can feel like forever. So we remind ourselves in the ego that we've chosen on the journey, this will not be remembered. Because when the truth dawns on our minds, we will not save a single vestige of the terrible garden of agony and death and how we experienced it. So I want to close with two quotes, one from the Song of Prayer and one from my favorite section in the Course, The Real Alternative. Child of eternal love, what gift is there your Father wants of you except yourself? And what is there that you would rather give? For what is there that you would rather have? You who have forgotten who you really are. What but that memory is dear to you? What trifling gifts made out of sickly fear and evil dreams of suffering and death can be the substitute you really want for the remembrance of the Christ in you? And this from The Real Alternative. He has not left his thoughts, but you forgot his presence and remembered not his love. No pathway in the world can lead to him, nor any worldly goal be one with his. What road in all the world will lead within, when every road was made to separate the journey from the purpose it must have, unless it be but futile wandering? All roads that lead away from what you are will lead you to confusion and despair. Yet has he never left his thoughts to die without their source forever in themselves. He has not left his thoughts. He could no more depart from them than they could keep him out. In unity with him do they abide, and in their oneness both are kept complete. There is no road that leads away from him. A journey from yourself does not exist. How foolish and insane it is to think that there could be a road with such a name. Where could it go, And how could you be made to travel on it, walking there without your own reality at one with you? Forgive yourself your madness, and forget all senseless journeys and all goalless aims. They have no meaning. You cannot escape from what you are, for God is merciful and did not let his Son abandon him. For what he is, be thankful, for in that is your escape from madness and from death. Nowhere but where he is can you be found. There is no path that does not lead to him. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day.